Hello everyone and welcome to another casual review. Today I'm talking about Kirby Air Riders. My brother and I were huge fans of the original GameCube game, and so we were pretty excited when this one was announced. He actually ended up buying it for me for my birthday, along with the Kirby Air Riders amiibo for Christmas, so thanks for spending more than $100 on me for this game. It basically took the original formula of the GameCube game and they elevated it. They kept everything that was special about the GameCube game and they made it even better for this Nintendo Switch 2 game. The way I see it, there are four main modes that you can play. The first one being Air Ride, and that is just like your typical kart racing mode. I would say though, if you're really used to playing a more traditional kart game, such as Mario Kart, it might take you a while to get your head wrapped around the controls for this one. I was talking this game up a lot with my friends, saying how much better it is than Mario Kart, and by the time I finally got them in front of the TV and a controller in their hand, I felt like they weren't entirely convinced by the end. They kind of just gave me a pity play, and then we all went back to Mario Kart. So control-wise, it's a little different in that your character is just going to accelerate forward no matter what, without you pressing any buttons. So you don't need to constantly hold the A button to press the gas like you would in Mario Kart. Your character's just gonna go. And so really, like, the main things that you're going to be controlling are the direction that you are pulling your cart, and you will be applying your brakes to do those turns. And in this way, when you're applying your brakes, you'll also charge up a boost, and if you charge up your boost enough, then you get like this blast forward. And so really, as you are going around these sharp bends, you want to drift around these curves, charge up your boost, and then let go to launch forward. And the A button controls a lot of different things. So yes, you are using this to apply your brakes and charge up your boost, but you are also tapping this button to use your ability. So in typical Kirby style, any character can inhale enemies and steal their abilities if they are a special enemy, and then you will also tap the A button to use said ability. So it takes some getting used to, because you don't want to hold the A button enough to apply your brakes, but you want to press it enough to activate the abilities. It is also kind of difficult to wrap your head around, because you want to press the A button to inhale the enemy, but if you press it when you're too far away from the enemy, then it won't activate the inhaling, it will activate the brakes, which we do not want in a racing game where we are trying to be in first place and go as fast as we can. In addition to this, there's a big roster of characters, not nearly like Super Smash level of roster, but a decent amount of different characters that you can choose from, and each of these characters has a unique special ability. So you basically have this meter that charges up, and when it's all the way full, you'll press the Y button, and this usually will accelerate you at a higher top speed than normal. Usually you'll do damage to opponents that you come across. For Air Ride mode specifically, I like to use the character Magalore, because he shoots this giant laser beam behind him, which basically just, if you're in first place, you're just hurting enemies behind you, but you're also getting propelled forward, so that's really fun. You also have a decent level of control with your cart regarding like jumps and being in the air. Typically, if you're playing a machine that is really emphasizing flying, like it goes faster when it's in the air, you kind of want to pull up on your cart when you're going off of a jump. This will allow you to remain in the air longer than if you were on the ground. And that's pretty much it for the controls. I think it just takes people a while to wrap their heads around the whole braking boosting mechanic, and plus they're always holding forward on their joystick, which you don't need to do. The joystick is just for turning and pulling your cart upwards, really. And while the control scheme sounds simple enough, the actual gameplay can be very fast and chaotic. There's a lot going on here. Your machines are going at a rocket speed a lot of the times. There's a bunch of elements all over the screen, especially if you're playing with a lot of other players that are using abilities. It is just chaotic, but really, really fun. They kind of do that thing that Mario Kart does, where if you're like riding behind somebody, then you can kind of get a boost off of them. So as these machines are driving, they'll leave behind this star trail, and you can actually drive in this star trail to get a boost. And I like this system better than the Mario Kart because it helps kind of slingshot the people that are in the back to keep up with the people in the front. I feel like the speed boost in Mario Kart is a lot more finicky and difficult to activate. You have to be like right behind the enemy, whereas the star trail that machines leave behind, it stays on the track for a decent amount of time. There are these really cool cinematic moments on the stages. I mean, all the stages are really cinematically impressive, and I feel like you're going through these stages so quickly that you barely have like any time to even take in what's going on, but they have these cinematic moments where you're riding on these grind rails, and really like the only thing you can control on these grind rails is like which rail you want to ride on, so you're kind of bouncing between them, but that you get to see these huge set pieces and giant whirlpools or monsters, and it's visually very exciting and impressive. I do like that they brought in I think all of the courses from the original Kirby Air Ride 2, because it's just crazy like how much these tracks are in my mind. I already have all the shortcuts memorized. Like I feel so at home when I play these tracks on Kirby Air Riders, but now I get to see them juiced up visually, you know? Like, I think this game runs at 60 frames a second. It just looks beautiful. Even these old courses that were made for the GameCube look amazing in this game. In addition to choosing your different characters with their different abilities, each character also has its own individual stats. You'll also want to choose what kind of machine you want, and there's a wide variety of machines. I wish it was a little more obvious what each machine's strengths and weaknesses were to a newcomer. I felt like whenever I did try to get a friend into playing this game, I ended up having to explain each of the machine's pros and cons. It's not always obvious what one a newcomer would want to choose. And I think this is a lot more beneficial for a person starting a new file, because you slowly unlock these new machines and characters, and so you get that opportunity to try out each vehicle as it is unlocked, where it can be a little overwhelming if I was to just put the controller in your hand and say, okay, pick a character and a car, and it's just like, well, I have no idea what each of these machines are. But you can unlock these characters and machines through these achievements, and if you've played the original Kirby Air Ride, or if you've played a Super Smash Brawl, I want to say, there's this achievement system, and it's basically just this grid with a bunch of squares, and each one has like a specific thing that it wants you to do, and once you fulfill one of those achievements, then it will reveal the squares that are adjacent to it, so then you can see what your next achievement could be. And it's really fun when you first start this game on a brand new file and you play just like one race, and suddenly like 10 of these achievements get unlocked, and you're unlocking all these stickers, decals, ships, courses, characters. There's a ton of endorphins just for playing like one round of Kirby Air Riders. And each of these modes has their own achievement system, and so if you get all of the achievements in Kirby Air Ride, there's still a lot more for you to try and unlock in the other modes. The cool thing about these different achievement systems and how they unlock like characters and machines is if I unlock Meta Knight in the Air Ride mode, if I unlock him again in one of the other modes, then I will just get a different coloring for him. But I will have him already unlocked for the other modes. And it's the same thing for the machines as well. If I already unlock the Shadow Star in Air Ride, and then I unlock the Shadow Star again in a different mode, then it will just give me machine parts to like customize my ship. And we'll get into that later. The next mode is called Top Ride, and Top Ride is kind of a punching bag when it comes to Kirby Air Ride. I'm sure it has its fans, but Top Ride is basically like this top-down view, and you're basically watching these little mini RC car versions of our characters and ships as they go around this really compact track. And I never played much of this in the original Kirby Air Ride, and I am going to say the same thing here. I didn't really touch it that much. I will say, though, I did get a new appreciation for the Top Ride mode because I did play this a lot with my 11-year-old nephew, and it seemed to be a lot more accessible and less overwhelming to him compared to the main Kirby Air Ride mode. Like, you can kind of see everything that's going on, and there's not so much chaos happening. Top Ride is also really good for if you've already unlocked most of the achievements in the other modes. It's a really easy way, like, it's easy to set up these achievements to unlock them if you just want to go full-on achievement hunter mode. The next mode that I want to talk about is probably the most popular mode in Kirby Air Ride, and if you ever talk to a fan of this series, they're going to rave about City Trial mode. So City Trial mode is basically like you and like 15 other characters are given like the worst machine in the game, and you're plopped in this really compact but dense city area, and you have a set amount of time. The default time is 5 minutes, but I always bump this up to 7 minutes, and you have this time to find a better machine that you prefer and to upgrade your machine with these power-ups. They can boost up your top speed, your acceleration, your turning, weight, all of these stats. You're just driving around trying to collect these stats and a machine that you want, and you're trying to build up this machine and these stats because there's going to be a mini game at the end. You don't usually know what the minigame is going to be, but sometimes you can find little hints like, hey, I foresee you flying across the sky. Okay, that tells me that I need to really build up my flying capabilities and find a machine that's really good at flying, because this minigame will probably require me to fly some distance or some height. Or, hey, you're going to be, I foresee you in a large arena. Okay, it looks like I'm going to be doing a lot of battling here, so I probably want to build up my offense and defense and find a tankier machine. Because if you bring in a paper star, a machine that's really good at flying, into an arena, you're probably going to die frequently because you're so fragile compared to something like a battle chariot. During the city trial mode, certain events will occur, and these events are very random. So, oh no, there are giant meteors falling from the sky, and you have to avoid all these giant explosions. Or, hey, there's tacks running around, and there's these little guys with these knapsacks on their back, and if you attack them, then you'll receive items. Sometimes bosses will appear on the city trial mode, and so you kind of have to like battle these bosses. Other times it's like, hey, there's going to be a mini race in the city, and everybody get here in the next 20 seconds, and if you get to this area, then you get to participate in a race, and if you get a high ranking place, like first place, you're going to get a ton of stat increases. And I just love this mode because there's so many secrets, so many different paths to uncover. I like this mode a lot because every time you play it, it feels like something different is happening. I like this mode because you get to try out a lot of different vehicles. You know, when you play a game like Mario Kart or a mode like Air Ride, you pretty much like have your favorite 2 or 3 vehicles and stick with them. But I feel like City Trial really forces you to get out of your comfort zone and experiment with all these different machines based on what your needs are. I also think that this mode is a lot more accessible to newcomers of the series as well, because there's not that stress or that visual indication like, hey, you're losing, you're in 8th place or whatever, as if you were playing something like Air Ride. If you're playing something like City Trial, it's a lot chiller in some sense of the word, in that you can just kind of explore and just gather things at your own pace. Of course, there's a lot of chaos and randomness to the game, but there's not that pressure in that you feel like you're constantly in the last place. I mean, it's totally possible for somebody to be doing really poorly during the city trial section, but during the mini game at the end, they win and end up getting first place. The final mode that I want to talk about is Road Trip, and Road Trip is almost like a Rogue Lite, or something more like Star Fox, in that you are choosing these different areas, these maps to go through, and you are kind of building up your character like you would City Trial mode, but in order to do that, you are overcoming these obstacles that are almost like chunks of these other 3 modes. So you find yourself on a pathway with 3 different enemies, and they all have different obstacles that you are trying to overcome. One might be, hey, get in first place in the middle of this air ride course, or hey, now you're playing City Trial and you have to break 15 boxes before everybody else, or sometimes there's boss battles like, hey, defeat this robot DDD. And as you are choosing these obstacles, you are also choosing what upgrades you want for the rest of this run. And the runs aren't too long, like 1 round of road trip takes maybe 3 or 4 hours, and it's not just like a one and done kind of thing. You can play as many different times as you want with different characters. There's a ton of achievements in this mode as well. In fact, you're actually required, in order to get the true ending for this game, you're actually required to play through the road trip mode at least twice. And if you are trying to get all of the achievements like I did, you're probably going to be playing road trip mode at least 3 or 4 times. That's okay though, I had a lot of fun playing it. It's kind of like a second screen type of mode, especially when you're doing a multiple playthrough of this. I played the first 2 times of this in normal mode, which seemed pretty easy, and so my 3rd and 4th time I actually bumped this up to hard difficulty. And if you lose one of these challenges, it's kind of like no big deal on the normal and hard difficulty, because you can just try it again as many times as you want. There is like an insane difficulty where you have to start the world over again that you are at. I did not try the insane difficulty though, so I can't say too much about that. But it was a good idea. I actually jumped right into the road trip mode first, and this was a pretty good introduction to the other 3 modes, because it is just like these bite-sized chunks of gameplay from each of these other 3 modes. So by the time I was ready to hop it over to Air Ride mode or Top Ride or City Trial, I knew kind of what I was doing. If you're playing this game solo, if you intend to just mostly play this single player offline, there still is some value here. It is really fun to do that achievement hunting for the majority of the time. I will say, particularly for City Trial mode, trying to achievement hunt in that mode can be rather frustrating, because a lot of these achievements rely on random events occurring. And so really, you're just trying to play this game mode as many times and hoping that the specific achievement you want to unlock gets activated. And even if it does, you're not guaranteed to fulfill the requirements for said achievement. I would say the easiest one to target would be the road trip mode, because it's tailored specifically to a one-player experience, and you can kind of choose your pathway to find the specific items that you need to activate or specific events that you need to activate. It just warrants multiple playthroughs. Like I said earlier, Top Right is also really easy to kind of like cheat your way to activating all of the achievements that you want, and it's really easy to set up, and rounds are really quick and snappy. So you can get a lot of those achievements out of the way in that mode if you're trying to unlock like a certain character, sticker, a vehicle. So that's like the core modes that you're mostly going to be interacting with. Obviously, this is more of a party game. It lends itself so much to that multiplayer aspect, and so I think this game is at its best when you're all together in a room playing split screen, talking trash on each other as you are playing through City Trial, or reacting to certain events that are happening, trying to get those achievements together. Online is also really engaging and fun, because most of the time when you're plopped into City Trial with like 15 other real-life players, you're probably not going to win. But that's okay, because I think this game is really fun just by the pure gameplay of it. You know, it's not only fun if you are winning, it's fun just if you are playing the game. And I did start leaning into the more like analyzing each machine's pros and cons and characters, and trying to go with some kind of meta. And it's like the moment I started doing like the research on how to play Kirby Air Riders Pro, that's when my enjoyability of the game started to wane, because it's not fun for me personally when I'm trying to min-max everything for this type of game. That's not what this type of game is all about, in my head at least. This is a party game. You're not expected to win every time. You're just expected to hop in, play, and have a good time. I did mention that my brother purchased an amiibo for me. At the time of this video, these amiibo are like one of the most expensive MSRP amiibo that's available. You get a character and a ship for $50, and it's like, well, 2 amiibo for $50, still kind of expensive, but not bad. But like, these amiibo do not function separately. Like, they need to be connected. The idea of it is pretty cool, where that if you have a second amiibo, like if I had the Waddle Dee and the Wingstar amiibo, I could swap and put the Kirby on the Wingstar and the Waddle Dee on the Warp Star. However, the price still is quite the factor if you are deciding if you want to pick these amiibo up. We did try activating the amiibo and training them. They function pretty similarly to Super Super Smash in that you scan your amiibo. So I scanned the Kirby and the Warp Star amiibo. I got to choose his color. I got to choose his name. We named him Kirby Bara. And then you got to play the games with him to train him up. And the idea is he starts as a stupid level 1 amiibo. He doesn't really know what he's doing. He's just kind of going around. But the idea is he learns as he plays what works and what doesn't. And he learns from your play style. I'm not sure how true that aspect actually is. But I did start to notice, we played a lot of City Trial with Kirby Bara, and I did start to notice as you're playing, he did get better and better in the ranks. He was getting better and better stats. I don't think it works as well as trying to train an amiibo in Super Smash, because if you're trying to train an amiibo in Super Smash, you always have eyes on them. So I can always see what my amiibo is doing. I can do a lot of 1v1 with that amiibo in Super Smash. I can visually see it getting better. If you're trying to train up this amiibo in City Trial, you rarely see this character. Like, you rarely bump next to him. It's always a surprise, though, like, oh, hey, look, there's Kirby Bara, like, in this area. But I feel like the map of City Trial is big enough that you're not gonna be seeing your amiibo that much. Now, that's not as true if you're playing a mode like Air Ride mode, because, yeah, you in that case, you will be seeing your amiibo a lot more as they're, like, trying to keep up with you. Still, though, I like that they brought this aspect back from Super Smash Brothers. I like the aspect of starting with a stupid, dumb baby Kirby amiibo, but then, like, really training him up to be a powerhouse and a force to be reckoned with, because even if you are playing solo player, it still feels like you're kind of playing with a friend that you trained to beat you, essentially, in the game. Will I be getting the other Kirby amiibos? I guess we'll see. Hopefully they do go on sale or clearance at some point. Now, to my disappointment, my other old Kirby amiibo do not have many special functionalities with this game. I wish that, because I already have, you know, a Waddle Dee, a King Dedede, a Kirby amiibo, I wish they also worked as like a CPU that I could train, but as far as I could tell, they basically just give you different like stickers and money, currency, things like that. There's a lot of other little fun things that you can play around with when you're not doing the main game modes. I mentioned like stickers, decals. The customization that you can do to each unique machine in this game is insane. So you unlock these new patterns and stickers, and you basically take the base model of your favorite machine, and then you can just like tweak it perfectly so it looks really over the top and awesome. And the cool thing about this as well is you can actually sell your machine on the market, and if other people like your designs, then they can buy it with in-game currency. Everything is in-game currency. You're not buying anything with real money after you buy the game, but you can sell your machine, and the more people that buy your machine, the more the cost goes up. So this is a really unique market system economy, in that like the really awesome unique machines that look like Pokemon or whatever, they're going to start selling for a ton. So if you're like one of the first people to get in on the ground floor, you get this really cool customization for your machine for a low price. But if you get in after something is really popular, you're going to be paying a pretty penny for it. There are these gummies, and basically just like as you play the game, you get these gummies, and they do absolutely nothing, except there's this little mode where all of these gummies drop from the ceiling, and you can like gather them up and toss them away, or scoop them up and throw them behind you, right? Like, it's a very simple system, but it's kind of satisfying in a way. Like, oh, look at me interact with these 300 delicious looking gummies and just throw them in the air. And you could definitely tell that Sakurai, the developer of this game, just put a lot of little pieces of appreciation and love into it, the way he does for all of his games. It's oozing with charm, it's cute, it's fun, it's intense, it's chaotic, it's random, it's silly, and all the other adjectives. It's just a really good party game. It's just getting your friends to the point that they're comfortable with the gameplay after they are so familiar with Mario Kart that they're on board. But once you reach that point where they understand the nuances in this game, I think this game really lends itself to a fun time. And if the original GameCube game is anything to go off of, this is a timeless party game. I'm going to give this game a 5 out of 5. Specifically, strictly with the multiplayer aspect in mind. If I was looking at this strictly from a single player mindset, I might drop this down to a 4 out of 5. Well, folks, that's it for me. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about Kirby Air Riders, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. Otherwise, I'll talk to you later. Bye!
Five, four, three, two, one, time!